right? And say, well, it just wasn't a match. I love that person. They're amazing. I hope the best for them. I would do anything I could for them. However, I'm not going to invest myself with them. Like that to me is kind of like an oxymoron, right? Like if you truly love somebody and you value them and you care for them and you want to see the best for them, you're willing to put your energy towards that outcome for them. If they're respecting it, if they're using it in a constructive manner, there's no reason to then put up a safety boundary of saying, I've given you everything that I have to give right now. I can't give any more. So I'm going to need a little timeout so I can recoup my energy. So I come from a more centered place versus a selfish, self-preserving way because I feel like I've given more than I'm receiving right now.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that you're talking about this because this is literally exactly what we were talking about on my mastermind. Exactly. And it was coming from a place of, you guys hear me say this all the time, showing up for yourself. Hey, Keith, welcome. How, I feel like every week I'm confronted with this as a coach. How do you get people to realize what it means to show up for themselves? And how do you get them to show up for themselves? I mean, this is absolutely so vital because no matter what an outside source is giving you or offering you or helping you or assisting you with, no matter how much you pay somebody to help you, if you don't show up for yourself, there's nothing. And, I relate to what you're saying because there are people all the time that show up, literally beg to do coaching. Please help me. I'll do anything. And like you said, while that excitement is there, they mean it sincerely. But as soon as they're comfortable again, or they believe a thought they have, it's too expensive, this isn't the right match for me, I'm not going to have time, I'm going to wait until this happens, I'm just going to try this first. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go do this astrology course, this will fix everything. There's nothing more important than being aware of and learning to choose your state of consciousness. There is nothing more powerful than that.
Right.
Because if you're not aware of and cannot choose your state of consciousness, and I know this is right because I get chills from source, my higher self, whoever, every time I restate this. If you are not aware of and you are not choosing your state of consciousness, you have nothing. You are running on whatever that 95% of your mind you're unaware of that has been programmed and influenced by everybody and everything else that has taken on whatever perception you've been programmed to have. And you're just reacting to life. And so I always tell my clients, make your state of consciousness your first priority. This means you must first be aware of it. It doesn't mean you have to fix anything. You don't even have to change anything. Just be aware of it. Yeah, and all the master teachers throughout time, including the Dalai Lama now and Eckhart Tolle and Dr. Wayne Dyer, teach this. Just be aware first. Because if you don't have awareness, you've got nothing.
Right.
And then you can say, wow, my state of consciousness is not, it's not where I want it to be. If I want this, is my state of consciousness in alignment with me being, let's not even say abundant or millionaire. Let's just say with not struggling.
Right.
Is my state of consciousness cohesive with a comfortable, peaceful, happy relationship, a comfortable state of finances, a joy in what I do for work? Let's just start with that. If your state of consciousness is not conducive for that, then that's where you need to start. And I see everybody starting with, I'm after this ultimate dream soulmate relationship. It's all or nothing. I hear the men say all the time, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Or it's Yeah, but that's the ego. That's the dramatic fairy.
Like, yeah, well, and we've been conditioned that we have to commit. Like, we have to be this,
right.
ooh, you know, like almost
Absolutely.
like a hero or a savior for the damsel in distress. And it's like, ultimately, like, can we have a partnership?
Let's hope that's their bark box coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so we have to really step back and look at what I see most people when they come to me for manifesting is most people don't have realistic is not my favorite word, but excuse me, I'm closing the door. Most people do not have a realistic idea of what they can even, what's doable, guys. Start with what's doable. Don't be like, homeless on the street, or you can't afford food and gas and be like, I'm going to be a millionaire, because your subconscious mind doesn't say that's doable. If you've struggled with relationships, or you're struggling with finance or whatever, just start with what's doable, because then your subconscious mind can start to put its feelers out and say, okay, it can start to recognize things that can actually assist you. Because the play I see, Chris, I know you see as well, is people have these unrealistic leaps for their expectations to manifest, but then they don't even show up for themselves for the basics.
Right.
I have 3 new coaching clients that started within the past 3 months. One of them is still emailing me. The other 2 disappeared. The one only wanted me to fix her boyfriend, which is never going to happen. That's ultimately what she wanted. And I said, this is ultimately what you want. So this probably isn't going to work, because you got to work on you.
Right.
So that was out the door. The other one had an excuse and it had to miss a month. I said, that's fine. You can make up the payments later. Just show up. Don't create a gap in your progress. Nope. Disappeared. Why? Because the egoic mind says, we were getting a little too close to change. A million excuses. Reasons are excuses. Sorry, hate to tell you. Reasons are excuses, myself included. I do not discount myself in that.
Right.
And the third one is a wonderful, beautiful soul who really sincerely wants to be there, but she keeps emailing me and asking me for guidance and advice. And my response is, show up for the coaching. I mean, I'm not doing coaching at 3 a.m. over email.
Right.
This is why I have a mastermind.
Right.
So you guys just keep that in mind, relate that to yourself. As Chris was talking about, break free of the conditioned mindset. What conditioning do you have that has programmed that 95% of your subconscious? You can see it in the results of your current reality. So if you want a different future reality, you have to change what you have right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a game. Like, you almost have to be like almost sadistic in some ways, because it's challenging, right? Like you have to cultivate joy in painful experiences so you can actually start to get used to that, because challenges are going to come. It's just, how are we responding to them in a more eloquent way, so we're not hung up on them, I just had a friend of mine, like, she's battling cancer, and she's struggling, and she was having a really bad time and dark time, and she reached out to me, and I didn't pick up the phone because I was busy. And I've told her, like, you're not a client, you're my friend, I love you, I want to be there, but I can't just drop everything every time you need me and take your phone call, to talk about whatever it is that's going on in your life. I just don't have, I don't have the time right now or the energy to do that right now. Love you. We can definitely talk, but I can't just drop everything, every morning because you had something happen. And she called me the other day and I didn't take it. And then, immediate was like, I see where you stand. Like, I'm going to just cut you out of my life. And I was like, okay. Like, if that's, if that's how you feel, if you feel like that's the best move for you right now, because I'm not showing up the way you want me to right now. I understand. And as soon as I said that, like, I got a text message back saying, I'm so sorry because, oh my God, I was being so selfish. Like, you have a life too. Like you have, and the reason I share that story is most of the time, especially if we're people pleasers, we're going to go into that, I need to fix and repair right now. And oh my God, like, I'm okay. I don't want to lose people in my life. That is not, I want to keep everybody in my life. That's the one thing that I want to collect more than anything is really cool people in my life. Whether we talk, once a week or once a year or whatever, to me, people are invaluable. And so, like, that's important to me is to try to keep the best relations I can with people, because I find that to be beneficial. I learn and grow from everybody. So,
can I jump in with that? I totally agree with you, like 1,000%. But I want to throw this out for people as well, though. You guys also have to remember, though, that sometimes it is just as healthy and beneficial for people to leave your life. And even for you to walk away. I mean, it isn't all, if you lose someone in your life, you're not really losing anything.
Right.
Okay. And I just want to make sure this is
just
clear.
Physical space.
Yeah, you and I understand this, Chris, but I want to make sure everybody understands this because a lot of people listening might, I used to always be like that. No matter what, keep and hang on to connections. I don't believe in burning bridges.
Right.
Okay. So that's one thing. That's great. But there are times where people are maybe, our frequencies change, their paths separate. When we hang on to that or we lean out of our lane in order to keep them there because we treasure and value them and we want to help them or they're valuable to us. I guess a good way for you guys to monitor this is to say, are you forcing it or not?
Right.
Yes, make the effort. If it's something that's your responsibility, yes, go out of your way, apologize, do what you need to.
Right.
But I know for somebody like me, I used to lean way out of my lane just because I loved that person, friend, whatever, colleague, wanted to keep everyone together, wanted to keep a good rapport and keep that relationship.
Right.
And, the truth is, guys, is that it doesn't always happen and we don't always know why. And they're not always the best for us either. I mean, a lot of the people that I wanted to keep in my life that I didn't understand why they just disappeared or why they, whatever. You got to understand a lot of people react dramatically. And especially if they're people who are mentally or emotionally unhealthy, a lot of times they will overreact. A lot of times they'll never say to you, hey, you upset me.
Right.
Or, hey, I'm mad at you for this.
Right.
If they're a person that, these are always the people I get in trouble with. I always have issues with the people that are psychologically unhealthy, that I still love and adore, right? That maybe are very passive aggressive or maybe overly sensitive. They may be not confident enough to say, hey, I didn't like it when you said this, or I took that personally, right? And you might not know there's anything wrong, and then they disappear. And that's okay. It doesn't always mean it's something you've done. Sometimes it's just something they can't handle. Sometimes for me, it's usually the misery loves company crowd. So they want other people that are going to respond to things miserably. I don't. So that can rub people the wrong way, right? So just understand that, guys, if it's your part and there's something you can do, that's great. But also know that if and when you let people go, because people will come in and out of your life, even people you love the most, if they're meant to come back around, they will. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I'm glad you mentioned people pleasing, Chris, because this came up 2 weeks ago in one of my reading lives. I'm going to say this, and it's kind of a very fine line. I spent years and years coaching and learning in my graduate work for psychology about people pleasing. And there's a huge thing in the coaching industry, and has been for a while, about not people pleasing, especially for women and women coaching women. Don't be a people pleaser. Learn to say no. Okay, yes, this is very important. As a woman, I can say, We are easily swayed and pushed for reasons that only women understand to things we don't even realize. We're trying to keep the peace. We're trying, oh, we can handle it. We'll just take it on ourselves. Whereas men are much more likely, not all men, but men are
I
much
was
more.
gonna say, hey, that's me right there. I don't know.
That's you, Mr. Libra, but most men are typically likely to say, what do I need to do first? And so what I want to say is this. I spent all these years learning not to be a people pleaser because I was told I was a people pleaser. If you are doing things that you don't want or need to, that feel against your moral code or against your internal self, or they make you feel, weak and vulnerable or afraid or something like that, by all means, yes, don't just please people. Don't just please people to keep the peace. Don't just please keep people to get them to do what you want. Don't just please people to get them to think of you a certain way or maintain a reputation. Don't just please people because you think it's going to get what you want. Don't just please people because you're afraid of their reaction, or you're afraid they're going to judge you, or you're afraid of what their opinion of you. Those are not the right reasons. And that is people pleasing. So in that way, yes, it's unhealthy.
Right.
But there are so many ways that in which this falls into the category of people pleasing that isn't. Like, if you've listened to how many things Chris has said today, where people were saying things to him, like his friend that has cancer, and he was, she's saying, okay, then we're done. I'm cutting you off. And he's like, okay. Like, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to cancel everything so I can talk to you every morning. Please, please, please don't do that. He said, okay. Or he didn't do what I would do, which is try to lecture her into explaining, this is why you don't want to do that. I'm really here for you. Please, I want you to. He said, okay. I want you guys to think about this, because if you just took a weekend or a week and everything that happened, I'm not saying roll over and play dead. I'm saying you took what happened that you had resistance to and you said, okay, look at what happened with his friend when he said, okay, I completely understand. She wrote back and was like, no, I'm really sorry. She recognized her part. Why? Because he didn't put up resistance that would force her to resist back and be like, I'm so glad I shoved him out of my life. No, he said, okay. So what was left? All that was left was her seeing her own ego. So sometimes when we do things that we it's a very thin line between understanding people pleasing and not. Sometimes when we just don't react, which is why I love studying the Stoics, when we just don't react and we're like, okay, see, that person's ego, which was their reaction in the first place, has nowhere to go. All they have to do is deal with themselves, which is better for them and it's better for you. If they come back around and they come to their senses, then yay, they're in vibration with you. If they don't, let them go for that time. I will do this with family, where somebody fine, da, 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 da. And instead of arguing back, I've said it 3 times. Nobody listens. So I'll just say, okay, I'm sorry. And I'll turn around. I say, I'm sorry. Turn and walk away. Why? Because they believe what they are saying. And when I say I'm sorry, I'm not doing this as manipulative. I'm doing it genuinely because they're not going to get it. So why argue? So if they believe I'm doing this thing, I will say, I'm sorry. Okay. And I'm sorry. And then what happens? Then they're like, oh my God, now I feel really bad. Why did she say she was sorry? I was the one really doing this, right? I'm not doing it intentionally for reverse psychology, guys. I'm doing it because that seems like I'm people pleasing. It seems like I'm giving in. It seems like I'm rolling over and playing dead. What you do when you do that, it's just your ego. It's not you. When you do that with your ego, what happens is it drops like a balloon. You just put a pin into the ground. And then their ego needs your ego to reflect itself because the ego has to be fed by resistance. Mm-hmm. And then they've got nothing left. They're fighting themselves.
It's just energy exchange.
And it's your mindset.
Right.
Conditioning.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and unfortunately, I fought really hard to keep someone in my life that I deeply love and care about, and it made it worse. So from that experience, I learned, okay, like if it's time for us to part ways, it's time for us to part ways for a bit. Because you know what? I've had people come back into my life 15, 20 years later, and our bond is closer and tighter and more aligned now than it ever has been. And even though we practice different ways of life.
Yeah. And that can happen too, even just with, like, maybe even with people that you had an issue with.
Right.
Sometimes it's not even people that maybe it's not people you miss or were close to. Maybe it's someone that you had a severe issue with in some sort, and things come back and you have that opportunity to, one person apologizes, somebody else, gets to vent their feelings, and at least you go off with peace, right? It came
Right.
around full circle.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that happen too. And what a blessing that is.
Right. Right. It's like once we get rid of the resistance of the emotional and mental energy, right? That the resistance, like we see things from a clearer state of view, right? And so sometimes that time is necessary to get that. Have some new different experiences, meet new people, you learn some new techniques or whatever it is, right? Like everybody's on their path. I'm not here to dictate what's right and what's wrong. But, like being more open and allowing, I mean, that's why I wanted to title the show Breaking Free of the Conditioned Mindset, because so many of us are conditioned to believe in all these teachings and labels and, all this stuff. We don't even realize it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things in Bali that came to my awareness was, when Rhonda would ask someone, are you Muslim or are you Hindu? Which, supposed to be taboo anyway, right? You're not supposed to ask people, but we're walking the spiritual path, so I mean, it's like
we're like, oh, they're Americans.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, they're on the thing, but she was asking them that, and I would like, and they were like, oh, I'm Hindu, and this is how I practice it, and it was like, really, it's a practice. It's all a practice.
Yes.
Like all that religion has done, and now it's the new age spirituality. All it's done is help protect the ego a little bit more in a different way. And people feel like it's different because it's termed different.
Right.
When the effect is the same. and like, it's so frustrating sometimes to understand that, like, the only thing that keeps us from having heaven on earth, to having the lifestyles that we want, to all the different things, is just being open to being it yourself in relation to what you have in life, and then moving in that direction. And in divine timing, it's going to come. And the reason I use the word divine is strategic, because we don't know when it's going to happen. Some of my biggest, and Larkin, I don't know if you've had the similar experience, some of my biggest peak moments came by chance circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And had I not, right, exactly. Like, like I was talking the other day about the trip to Colombia, and I was in the state of like, oh, I'm being a little financially irresponsible because I'm spending I'm spending money on this trip for my own experience, and I don't know the end result of how it's gonna benefit my practice, my business, myself, my relationships, all those different things. But I'm going to have any experience because those are the things that I want the outcomes to be. Like, I want to go through challenging relationships. Why? Because then I know how to have harmonious relationships. And it's all a practice of acceptance and presence. And, we can use all these beautiful words and, throw out all these techniques and, look at how vast our knowledge of that we've been able to build, but ultimately it only creates our knowledge, the ledge of the known. And for us to truly have faith, we have to let go of that stuff by being here, unconditioned, in the unknown with the best of intentions.
That's right. That's right.
um, you know, it's like, and someone, I remember once I was a coaching client was like, why do you put a positive spin on it? And, and it's like, well, the best of intentions has always been the pathway to hell, because we intend to do the right thing. We intend to do the things, but until we give it the attention and actually put our energy into it, the intent, what is intended, may or may not manifest.
Yeah, I mean,
I intend to be a good person, whatever that means, right? Like, I intend to do good. I hear this a lot all the time, right? Or my love is unconditional and boundless. But here, let me not consider your feelings or how my life is going to affect, my life choices are going to affect you or the collective or any of that other stuff. Like that it's a little bit of a dis-ease, of integrity. Because if we truly meant what we're saying, then we're going to be present for it.
well, and I think what happens is we put the cart before the horse.
Right.
I mean,
Fair.
I cannot emphasize this enough, guys. I know I keep re-emphasizing the same simple things, but for all of the reasons that Chris just shared, this is why I focus so neutrally on sort of a trifecta of neutral studies and practices. Right. So like, I was just telling my mindset clients, and for any of you out there that are psychologists or into psychology, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put down psychology. I am not currently a psychologist, so I am not saying psychology doesn't work. I am not encouraging anyone to not go to psychology. I recommend a lot of my clients go to psychologists. But one of the things I noticed and why I got out of psychology and into neuroscience, mindset and mindfulness, coaching instead, with spirituality, which I don't even like that word anymore,
Right.
but it's because the spirituality being a way of life, okay, like Buddhism, like Zen, not a religion, not New Agey. I've never gotten into the New Age community. There's too many things I disagree with. There's too many just broken people and mindsets going in there, using it as another excuse not to transform and get out of their comfort zone. That's ultimately what it is. Mm-hmm. It's a substitute. And so, but what I was talking about on the mastermind today is that psychology can become the same surrogate as calling your family and friends and just bitching. And I'm an expressive person. I'm super hypersensitive in so many ways. And so when I feel something emotionally, it feels like 100 times stronger than it does for a lot of people, for a lot of reasons. So it was something that I found even myself I did. And as I got into graduate school for psychology, I recognized this even more, that psychology, you can become addicted to going in, having your session, you're acknowledged, you're heard, you're given what you believe are solutions. The person listening is being paid to ask you about your past and be interested. And whether you know that or not, it's an addiction. And, I did this for a couple of years with my psychologist, because when I got into graduate school, we had to be tested. We had to see a psychologist, all of this in order to become a psychologist. And if I think back on it, I really looked forward to my sessions because I had so much to talk to him about. I had 2-hour sessions at one point, and wow, it just, And if I look back on it, what did I get out of it? we had more intellectual conversations about psychology and mindset and everything else because I loved my psychologist. He was awesome. But he would sympathize with me. He would side with me. He would give me solutions. I loved it. It was an addiction. And because I had grown up sharing and talking with close friends and family, like a lot of women do, about every little thing that happened, it was an addiction. But you know what the real solution was? Shut up, be still and silent, and stop resisting what the hell's going on. That's the answer.
Well, it's the same thing with all the ceremonies we do and plant ceremonies, and I'm an advocate for it, right?
But it's the ego's playground.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna have this crazy altered experience. Woohoo! Like for me, that's how I'm going into it, but because I want to master my energy in all the different ways, and how is this gonna show up, and how am I gonna get to navigate that? Like, I don't have to go anywhere to entertain. I can sit in the room.
You don't have to, and that's the thing, Chris. Nobody wants that answer,
right?
Nobody. That's what the Maharishi did. People came for the Maharishi, and he just freaking sat there. And people would get pissed and leave. Well, he is supposed to be the greatest master teacher on the planet. He just sat there. He looked at me and then went, closed his eyes, and that was it. What were they supposed to learn? To shut up and silence their mind and their thoughts. Because where do all of your problems arise, my friends?
Yeah.
Why are you listening to this? Why do you want a coach? Why do you want a psychologist? Why do you want mindset? Why do you call your friends and complain and bitch and gossip? Why do you want to feel heard? Because of this. That's it. And nobody wants that simple solution. Why? Because the ego is bored by that. The ego is not interested in what I'm saying right now. That is boring. You guys would prefer, you got a demon following you. Yeah. This is from that past life. And it's all your father's fault. And then look what your sister did. You're going to have, this is a long road ahead. You're going to have to do blah, blah, blah. That's what your ego wants me to say.
Right.
And that is the ego's roundabout. I'm going to play a game with you for the rest of your life and make up all this shit to keep you busy so you can pretend you're solving the problems that you've created for yourself. But that's not the answer, really.
Most of the people that I talk to is after we get off the phone or about to get off the phone, I hear, thank you for reminding me what I already knew. And that, fuck you. And, I take it with a grain of salt and, all that stuff. But Eckhart Tolle says in the presence of now, it's like I believe it's the police chief, right? That's investigating the arsonist, but he's the arsonist. Like, that's the greatest analogy for the ego. Because it's like, there's a problem, but I don't know how to fix it. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's out here. I think it's over here. And wait, like I haven't meditated long enough. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. And I can say that because I was that person. Like, I would meditate for 5 hours a day and be like, man, my life is freaking awesome. And then, something happened that I wasn't expecting. And then emotions came up and it was like, wait a minute, like, that's not supposed to happen. I'm meditating. I'm doing all these methods. I'm doing all these things. I'm doing all this. I shouldn't have to have this experience. And then it's like, well, hi, you go. Like, we're having that experience anyway. So you're going to get over it and have the experience and enjoy it the best you can and move on from it. Or are you going to make a big deal out of it and stay stuck there? And there is a level of, we have to be mindful not to neglect ourselves. And, because I've definitely also fallen into that trap of like, I'm just going to be free of everything. Like, I'm no attachments. And the most challenging thing for me in that experience, even though that my friends and my family and all those were helping me out and all that stuff, was not being able to give in the ways that I wanted to be able to give because I didn't have the resources to actually do it. Whether it was my time, whether it was my money, whether it was going on a trip or whatever it was. I think that is like I saw a license plate the other day that just really inspired me. It said "Live to Give," and I'm like, absolutely, because that's all we have. Like, you're gonna have to have it to give it. So, claim your life, claim what it is that's important to you, and then give it away and find out how it's really it's really what the relationship you have with it that means the most.
I think most people spend their life becomes their problems.
Right.
I mean, most people that's what they focus on. And, and again, guys, we don't take our opportunities. I mean, this is also why I believe it is important for us to charge for our services. Because when something's really valuable to someone, they find the way to do it. Most of the people I have given my services away to for free, they get the least out of it. They don't show up. And we have to really look at the value that we put on things, because, again, I have people hop on my lives and my readings. They ask me a question. They might, they get the answer, or they sign up for something. And then if they don't show up, and then they come right back on the live and they ask the same question again. And so, when we're talking about conditioning the mindset, guys, as we summarize up today, look at where are you maybe not following through? Where are your patterns and habits of really wanting change and then getting excited? Do you get hot and then really cold? Do you jump in, you're all motivated, and then you let everything drop? Because it's going to be the things that are least exciting. You might have the most exciting aha moment, but it's not going to be, some big, fancy, magical solution. Your aha moments might be like realizing the power of your thoughts or your power of choice. That is exciting. But the solutions are actually going to be simple. They're going to be right under your nose. They're going to be, the ego likes to hype everything up. So I personally want to leave you guys with a reminder that the ego wants the excitement, the drama, the adrenaline. It wants to be something big and special, some sparkly, shiny solution. But the truth is, the solution's like walking down a path on an autumn day and finding a little, dead brown leaf in all the other leaves. And you realize, oh, the wind and the leaves, they were there all along. That's really the solution. So just keep that in your awareness as you guys are on your never ending, westernized spree and sprint for the magic pill. We always say there is no magic pill, but there is. It's stillness and silence. It's learning to become aware of your thoughts. It's the most uninteresting thing you can possibly imagine. The question is, are you willing to do it?
Right. Question. Without building an identity around them. Like,
yeah. Which means no words, no thoughts.
Right.
No understanding of it.
Right. Feel the energy, but experience the energy, but not create the narrative. Because that just creates more separation between.
And this is why coaching is helpful, because it doesn't have to be with us, guys, but this is why we offer the things we offer, because when most of you get off of here, you're going to think about this, make your judgments about it, and go back to your old habits. It's all about habits and repetition. All of it. So the reason that coaching is important is because you can have a community and a backup and support for creating transformation, to changing your mindset, to creating new habits and repetition. That is not easy to do alone on your own without support of anyone that hasn't done it or doesn't understand it, because the rest of the world isn't going to. At least 95% of the people out there are going to keep the habits they have. They're going to continue complaining about the changes they want and never make them. They're not going to know why. And you can stay with the misery loves company crowd, or one at a time, you can be that person that leaves that misery loves company crowd. But you got to have some outside support to do that. because otherwise it's too easy for the mindset to get sucked in, and everybody's going to be like, what are you doing? Why are you so different? Why aren't you responding to me? Why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you complaining with me? Right? There's got to be some other pull in another direction to help you find that balance. Because it is a very difficult transformation. Even for me, who's always been exceedingly determined and has a very intact cosmic memory, we're human. So we get sucked in by the humans and the ideas around us.
Yep.
None of us are immune to that. Not even the Dalai Lama. That's why they take him from the time he's a baby and they skew him away somewhere until he's programmed enough and solidified enough that he can go out into the world under the guise and the protection of his community.
Right. And the same thing with the mamos and many other,
there's a reason for it.
Right. Absolutely. So while you're having your lunch there or whatever you got going on, I guess we should call it. Yeah. Sorry, I had to call you out. I'm like, wow, I've never seen anyone start making
Go
food.
for it, guys. This is car food. I'm now heading to the barn to freeze my ass off.
Yeah.
For 11 horses to deal with frozen hoses.
Yeah.
Clean stalls for a few hours. So yeah, I need some food.
Yeah. And if anyone ever questioned your passion about this stuff, there's the reason, the proof that you actually do care. Yeah, it's not just it's something to do. I got nothing else to do. Like, I'm gonna go out in this crap weather. I'm gonna have all these challenging experiences, and I'm gonna do the best.
As a matter of fact, in many ways, it ruins my life. I mean, I get no sleep. I have little time with my family. It has made my business that should be super easy because I know how to coach people in business a real struggle. It's taken up all my work and home and family time.
I observe it as one of your.
You deal with it too. You get a blunt end for it too. So I'm actually looking to try to see if I can find some people, hire a couple people to do my stalls, because it takes me a few hours to do my stalls.
Right.
So thank you for recognizing that, Chris. You have very my whole family says, "Wow, Chris is sure patient with you." It's like I wouldn't have that patience. I was like, honey, you do. You put up with me every day, coming in at 4 a.m.
Yeah. But he married you.
He did, and I'm lucky. He's Virgo, but he's one day away from Libra.
Yeah,
so that probably wouldn't be working out so well.
All right. Well, much love, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to our show. Thank you for tuning in live and your comments and your questions. Very much appreciated. The show is so much so enhanced by your participation. So thanks for doing it. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channels, the Enhance Your World show, and all the replays are on our channels and enhancingyourworld.com. And we'll talk to you. I know we're going to talk about changing the schedule. I texted you earlier today to talk to you about that. So
yep. And I responded with, yes, I need to too.
Okay. So we'll get the details and we'll let everybody know when that reschedule is going to be. And so cool. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.